And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Modi Gandhi. It is the 19th of April 2024 and West Asia is on nuclear knife edge. Anything can happen next. The markets are bracing for the worst. Today, European stocks dropped to their lowest levels in more than a month. Flights were rerouted. Dubai-based carriers Emirates and Fly Dubai diverted their planes around western Iran. This happened at about 4:30 a.m. this morning. Commercial flights in Tehran were grounded. The United States sent a message to its diplomatic staff in Israel. They were told to limit movement. In other words, do not venture out. Anything can happen. It all began before the break of dawn. Iran's state media said the country's air defense systems shot down 3 drones. These drones were near the city of Isfahan. This is where it is located, in central Iran. Isfahan is among Iran's most famous cities. It is home to a beautiful turquoise-tiled mosque and roughly 2 million people. Isfahan has a number of military facilities, including a major airbase that has Iran's fleet of American F-14 Tomcats. These planes were bought before the 1979 revolution. Some reports say Isfahan also has a battery of the Russian S-300 missile system. The city is also home to facilities linked to Iran's drone program. There are also other military production facilities. It is important to note at this point that there was an attack on one of these facilities in January 2023, and back then as well, quadcopter drones were involved. Who attacked Isfahan in 2023, you ask? Israel neither claimed the attack back then, nor has it said anything now. But we can tell you that quadcopters seem to have become one of Israel's weapon of choice against Iran. I told you about January 2023. Listen in to what happened in February 2022. Israel sent 6 quadcopter drones into Iran. They struck a drone manufacturing facility in Iran's western city of Kermanshah. Several Iranian drones were destroyed in the attack. In 2021, there was another attack on Isfahan. Once again, a drone manufacturing factory was attacked. When the quadcopters flew into Isfahan this morning, the defense systems over several Iranian cities were activated. The situation was tense. Isfahan has nuclear facilities as well. The underground Natanz uranium enrichment plant is located in the Isfahan province. Within the city's periphery, there are uranium conversion facilities. It is located in the Zerdenjan area. Were they the target is the question. Reports say there were 3 loud explosions. They were heard close to the Isfahan airport and the Shikari army base. What about the nuclear facilities? Were they affected? Iranian officials say the nuclear sites are secure. The International Atomic Energy Agency also confirmed that there was no damage to Iran's nuclear sites. So what was the target of the attack? Was it meant to be a limited strike? Was it meant to be Israel's symbolic retaliation? Or was it a tit-for-tat attack? On the 13th of April, Iran's attack damaged Israel's Nevatim airbase, which hosts American F-35 jets. Was Israel trying to show that it also is capable of inflicting damage on an equivalent Iranian base? The airbase in Isfahan, like I told you, has Iranian Air Force F-14 Tomcat fighter jets. They are still the most advanced in Iran's aged fleet. Was Israel trying to tell Iran that it also can strike inside the country? American media reports are quoting an Israeli official as saying the intention was to send a message to Iran. But questions remain. How did Israel get so deep within Iranian airspace? Very interestingly, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken refused to comment on the development. All that he said, when asked by reporters on the sidelines of the G7 meeting in Italy, is that the United States, quote-unquote, has not been involved in any offensive operation. In fact, Italy's foreign minister, Antonio Tajani, is being quoted as saying that Israel gave the United States a last-minute warning about the attack. So what happens next? Will Iran retaliate? Let me tell you what an Iranian member of parliament wrote on the platform X. Let them know that we are at peak readiness to protect our dear Iran. Yesterday, right before we were going live, we learned that an Iranian commander was threatening to make a nuclear bomb. Ahmad Haqtalab, the IRGC commander in charge of nuclear security, said that Iran is open to reviewing its nuclear doctrine. It's unprecedented. Iran's civil nuclear program has always worried the West, with Western analysts constantly suspecting that Iran could be secretly building a nuclear bomb. Iran's pace of enriching near weapon-grade uranium has not helped. But so far, there has been no indication of Iran actually having made a nuclear bomb. This despite Western experts saying that Iran has everything it needs to build the bomb. Iran has maintained that it does not have a bomb. Also, it does not have the intention of building one, but that when the veil was lifted on the Iran-Israel proxy war, and yesterday in a first, we heard an Iranian official openly threatening to build a bomb. This commander, in fact, said that Iran has identified Israeli nuclear sites and will not shy away from attacking them if Iranian nuclear facilities were attacked. And as I speak, the world is bracing for the worst. Lufthansa, Swiss, they've also already suspended flights to Iran. What happens next is the immediate question. Will there be a war? Will Iran retaliate? Like we told you yesterday, Iran is a master of calibrated warfare. It knows that one more fatal mistake can lead to an all-out war. Iran also knows that while it may have the capacity to fight Israel and its allies, once the war ends, Iran's capacity to rearm will be lesser than Israel's. So an all-out war does not help Iran, which is why Iran may not be walking in the direction of escalation. Which also may explain why, apart from a few comments here and there, Iran's top officials really have tried to play down this morning's attack. It also could explain why the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi made no mention of Isfahan in his speech today. Raisi was in the Iranian province of Semnan. He spoke about local affairs, also about Sunday's attack. Raisi said, and I'm quoting, "Operation True Promise led to authority, unity and cohesion in the country. Today, all political groups and factions believe that this response was necessary and a big honor for the country." But you see, Raisi did not mention Isfahan. The foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov has said that he has been in touch with both Israel and Iran, adding, and I'm quoting here, "We told the Israelis that Iran does not want escalation." Point number 2, Iran strategically believes in consistent war, not an all-out war. Iran has its axis of resistance, remember. It has proxies in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, Syria. Iran has armed them, enabled them to inflict damage upon Israel. Iran can go back to waging a shadow war. It does not need an all-out war. But like we have been telling you, the rules of the game have changed since the April 1 attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. So even if an all-out war does not break out, the events of the last 19 days are bound to have an impact on the ground, which is where we come back to Iran's nuclear program. You see, Israel is already a nuclear power. No one has any doubt about that. After this confrontation, after what's happened on and since the 1st of April, Iran will seek to correct the balance. It will become a nuclear power, perhaps. There will not be any more listening to the United Nations or abiding by the rules of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, perhaps. An agreement that's all but dead. Iran could very well shut doors to Western nuclear inspectors. Of course, making a bomb will not be all that easy. For starters, it will be a longer process. But this is the direction that the Iran-Israel conflict is likely to be headed in. West Asia may have escaped an all-out war, but it is the start of something much more dangerous. It is the start of a nuclear race. It is the 19th of April 2024, and West Asia is on nuclear knife edge. Let's now go straight across to our correspondents, Jody Cohen and Susan Tehrani, with us, getting us updates. Coming to you first, Jody, what are you picking up at this point? What is the sense that you're getting?
Hi, Molly. So the Prime Minister's office and the Israel Defense Forces have not claimed responsibility for the strikes on the air defense systems in Syria and on the airbase in Iran. But a US official is suggesting to American media that Israel carried out this limited strike. Now, the strike involved small drones, and commentators are suggesting that that's a sign of wanting de-escalation. Mark Dubowitz from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy said that this is a message, and that the message is that Israel can hit Iran's nuclear facilities and can also penetrate its air defenses, and said that this might mean that Iran decides to stand down. Now, commentators are also suggesting that it appears that the reported strike was possibly designed in a way that Iran could save face. Iran could claim no real damage was caused and that it shot down 3 drones, and also in a way that Israel could send a message while potentially avoiding an escalation. And an anonymous senior Iranian official has said that there's no immediate plans for a retaliation against Israel. But remember, Iran had warned of a massive response if Israel launched even the tiniest invasion. There seems to be calm in Israel. You can see the streets are very quiet behind me. That's also because people are preparing for the Sabbath. People don't appear to be nervous. From people I've been speaking to today, they don't appear to be nervous about an immediate Iranian retaliation.
Right. Susan, what are the reactions that you've been getting in, and what are you picking up at this point as far as America's positioning is concerned?
Yeah, America has been constantly saying what it has been saying since April 1st and that unprecedented attack from Iran against Israel. First of all, that it will stand by Israel in Israel's defense, but will not initiate attack against Iran or get involved in something like that. We heard similar rhetoric coming from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in not so many words, basically saying that the United States was not involved and called for restraint in the Middle East region, something the Biden administration hopes will get through. This message would get through to Israel and Iran. As Jody mentioned, it really doesn't appear that there's going to be further escalation. And one of the reasons for that is, despite those threats on the part of the Iranian president prior to Israel's attack last night, Iran has decided to say that this was an attack by quote unquote perpetrators. They're not naming Israel by name. And that may signal that they don't want to really carry out those threats that they had mentioned prior.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Susan and Jody, thanks very much for those updates. Speaking of warning signs, there is one in Europe and it is blinking red. I'm talking about Ukraine. The developments should not surprise you. Europe knows it, Ukraine knows it. It's not lost on America either. According to the CIA director, William Burns, Ukraine could lose the war by the end of the year. That's right. Speaking at an event on Thursday, Burns warned essentially that the US is running out of time to help Ukraine. He was painting a scenario in which the US Congress does not approve billions of dollars in supplemental aid to Ukraine. He said that there is a very real risk that Ukraine could lose on the battlefield, or at least put Putin in a position where he could dictate the terms of a political settlement. The CIA director admitted that Ukraine is running out of ammunition at an alarming rate. He's right. Not only have the conditions along the front line worsened for Ukraine, the focus of its allies shifted elsewhere. And this means that Ukraine has been left to fend for itself in a way, without cash, weapons or troops. And now there is panic in Ukraine. In an interview with BBC, the Ukrainian Prime Minister warned that there will be a third world war if Ukraine loses the war to Russia. He urged the US Congress to pass the long-stalled aid package that will greatly help the country fight the Russian assault. The funding proposal, remember, has been stuck in the US Congress as some American lawmakers have objected to sending tens of billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine. But this is not the first time that Ukraine has warned about the consequences of a potential defeat. Last year, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that if Russia won the war, it could invade Poland next, triggering World War III. Russia, of course, has ridiculed such claims. President Vladimir Putin, in fact, has consistently dismissed suggestions that he might one day attack Eastern Europe as, quote-unquote, complete nonsense. Russia has also never attacked or shown an intention to invade a NATO country. NATO's collective defense pact means that an attack on one is an attack on all. But remember, unlike Poland, Ukraine is still not a member of the NATO. Hence, Ukraine's alarming claims can be seen as an attempt by Kiev to get more aid from its allies. But you see, what Ukraine is not exaggerating is its critical dependence on the US to sustain a war with Russia. So while Ukraine begs for more weapons and American politicians bicker about sending them to Kiev, Russia has shown the world it can sustain a long war. In the 2 years since sending troops to Ukraine, Russia has gained control of 20% of its territory. Its oil and other exports have found new markets. Its factories are churning out more weapons, and its economy has shown incredible resilience. Meanwhile, America has declared its full support for Ukraine but has lost its interest in protecting the country, it seems. Washington may not want to admit it publicly, but Ukraine has become a lost cause for them in a way. Let me break this down for you. Reason number one, Ukraine is outnumbered on the battlefield. It just does not have enough men to fight the war. According to latest estimates, Kiev has lost more than 70,000 soldiers in the war. It is also struggling to mobilize more men to fight Russia. According to reports, Ukrainian forces are outnumbered by Russia, 10-1. No surprises then. Ukraine's military is under severe pressure. And in comparison, Russia has greater manpower. And this brings me to reason number two of why things are looking this way for Ukraine. Western war machinery, just cannot keep up with Ukraine's appetite for weapons. Ukraine cannot possibly produce what they need for the battlefield. Neither can the US nor Europe. They simply cannot keep up with Ukraine's needs. NATO's own ammunition stocks are at the bottom of the barrel. In stark contrast, Russia's own war machine continues to churn out a shocking amount of war gear. According to Pentagon's assessment, Russia has been able to restock all of what that they have lost in the battlefield. And lastly, reason number 3. Because America's real strategic focus is the Indo-Pacific region. It can only pay so much attention to Europe. Plus, the crisis in West Asia, of course, is taking up all of its current attention and resources. In short, America is spread way too thin. And for these reasons and more, Ukraine seems to be heading for a defeat. The only question is, just how bad will Ukraine's losses really be before America realizes this? A quick look now at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. India has delivered the BrahMos missiles to the Philippines. The $375 million deal was signed 2 years ago. The details coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you, China claims to have developed a radar technology that can detect American F-22 stealth jet. We get to the complete story. We're also getting you the latest from the first phase of polling in the Indian Lok Sabha elections. Also coming up on the show, a report on a suicide bombing in Pakistan that injured several Japanese workers. All this and more coming up in just a bit. India has delivered its BrahMos missiles to the Philippines. The deal was signed 2 years back. It was worth $375 million. This is the first ever export order of the all-powerful BrahMos. And now the Philippines is armed with one of the fastest supersonic cruise missiles in the world. Should China watch out? India has armed the Philippines against the bully in the South China Sea. The ground systems were delivered earlier in the year, and now the missiles have also reached their destination. They arrived on board the Indian Air Force's C-17 Globemaster transport aircraft. In total, 3 batteries of the BrahMos missile system have been sent. Each system comprises 2 missile launchers, a radar unit, and a command and control center. It allows for the firing of 2 missiles within a span of 2 to 3 seconds, within 4 minutes of getting the command. Now, BrahMos has many forms. It can be ship-based, land-based, air-launched, and submarine-based. Which one exactly has the Philippines got? The shore-based anti-ship variant. And where is the Philippines going to deploy the BrahMos? In its coastal areas to guard against any threat in the region. Now, this is a major boost for the Philippines' defense sector. Just look at what the missile is capable of. It can fly at almost 3 times the speed of sound. This makes the missile almost impossible to intercept. It has a range of around 290 kilometers. This is way more than most cruise missiles. It can carry a 250-kilogram submunition. And lastly, the BrahMos is also nuclear capable. A full-throttle, preemptive nuclear strike can put out the enemy's offensive capability. With the BrahMos in its arsenal, the Philippines is better prepared to face its enemies. And the deal also includes an integrated logistics support package and training for operators and maintainers needed for the BrahMos. It's a milestone for both India and the Philippines. For India, because it is the Defense Research and Development Organization's biggest ever foreign export agreement. Of late, India has been pushing for greater self-reliance in defense, and it's slowly emerging as a reliable new player, to say the least, when it comes to weapons exports. India already exports defense products to over 80 countries. It exports systems like the Dornier 228 aircraft, 155mm advanced towed artillery guns, Akash missile system, radars, simulators, mine-protected vehicles, armored vehicles, Pinaka rockets and launchers, thermal imagers, body armor, line-replaceable units, parts and components of aviation electronics and small arms. And now it's aiming for bigger deals like that of the BrahMos. There are talks that Vietnam and Indonesia also want the missiles. In fact, according to reports, India could be in talks with as many as 8 countries for exporting the BrahMos missiles. Now, coming back to the Philippines, the country also seeks to acquire 7 ALH Mk3 choppers from India. The helicopter is equipped with high-tech surveillance radar. It can detect and identify ships and boats up to a range of 120 nautical miles. Besides that, these helicopters can be used for long-range search and rescue operations. You see, India is becoming increasingly popular as a defense exporter. As it continues to move in the direction of self-reliance, the road ahead seems full of many such milestones. As the US sends its 5th-generation fighter jets to air bases near China, how are the Chinese preparing their defense? According to reports, with a new radar system that can pinpoint the stealth jet with remarkable accuracy. Here's what we know about it. According to reports, researchers from the Chinese Air Force claimed to have developed radar technology aimed at better detecting the F-22 as well as other stealth aircraft. And if true, this is a big technological as well as strategic breakthrough. Remember, the American F-22 Raptor is the world's most formidable fighter jet. It has a radar cross-section believed to be as small as 1 square centimeter. That's about the size of a fingernail, which basically means that it is virtually radar evading. Now, the Chinese researchers from the Air and Missile Defense College of the Air Force Engineering University in Xi'an have created a new method. This new method basically could reportedly make a stealth fighter jet with the same configuration as the F-22 appear on the radar screen. That too with a signal strength comparable to that of an ordinary fighter. Just to put it simply, these Chinese scientists claimed to have a detection method that can increase F-22 fighter jets' radar signature by 60,000 times. According to the report, their detection method covered a vast battlefield of around 63,000 square kilometers. And it also takes into account the F-22's maneuvers. The new detection method ensures that the jet would remain firmly within sight of China's radar network. The research has also been peer-reviewed and published in the Journal of Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. According to the researchers, this new detection technology enabled China's radar system to pinpoint the F-22's real-time position with remarkable accuracy. They achieved a minimal error of nearly 20 meters. This information could then be swiftly relayed to interceptor fighters or air defense missiles. None of this surprises us. For years, Chinese defense contractors have been introducing a number of anti-stealth radars using various techniques like emitting low-frequency electromagnetic waves or increasing transmission power to detect stealth targets. And these radars are typically designed to operate independently. According to the report, these radars can be strategically positioned on land, islands, ships, and even aerial platforms. It will greatly bolster China's denial and anti-access capabilities in the South China Sea as well as Western Pacific regions. As far as fighter jets go, F-22 remains the US's top pick against China. The US military, in fact, has been improving its stealth as well as combat capabilities with an eye on China. The US has also stationed them in its critical airbase in Japan. China, of course, sees this as a threat to its interests in the region, and which is why Beijing has significantly ramped up production of its own J-20 heavy stealth fighters in recent years. We just told you about the delivery of India's BrahMos missiles to the Philippines. The country is seeking to bolster itself militarily amid maritime run-ins with China. Indo-Pacific powers are banding together as a bulwark against China's growing influence in the region. And as China continues to advance its military capabilities, transforming itself from a defensive to a more aggressive force, do the US and allies have any other option than to forge close strategic ties? General elections in the world's largest democracy, India, started off today with voting completed in the first phase of the Lok Sabha elections in 102 seats spread across 21 states and union territories. Our next report telling you more.
A mammoth electoral exercise spread out across 7 phases in the world's largest democracy. Voting has been completed in Phase 1 of the general elections in India. The first phase covered 102 constituencies across 21 states and union territories. The first day of voting in the 18th Lok Sabha election saw a voter turnout of nearly 60% recorded till 5 p.m. Seats in Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Rajasthan, Sikkim, Tamil Nadu, Tripura, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, West Bengal, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Jammu and Kashmir, Lakshadweep and Puducherry went to the polls. How did the day pan out? Let's take you through some of the highlights. Voters in Jammu and Kashmir there came out to vote in the Udhampur parliamentary constituency. This election marks the first major battle post the abrogation of Article 370 and the bifurcation of the state into 2 union territories. Early voters braved the inclement weather and were seen heading for polling stations before the start of voting. Polling was peaceful across 2,637 polling stations. Sporadic incidents of violence were reported in the state of West Bengal. Polling was held in 3 seats, Cooch Behar, Jalpaiguri and Alipurdwar. Trinamool Congress and BJP workers clashed in Cooch Behar and accused each other of violence. In Chhattisgarh, a 32-year-old CRPF Jawan was killed in an under-barrel grenade launcher cell blast near a polling booth in the state's Bijapur district. In another incident, also in Bijapur, a Jawan was injured in an improvised explosive device blast. Both incidents took place under the Maoist-affected Bastar constituency, which went to the polls. The southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu is witnessing a high-stakes battle with all 39 seats going to polls in Phase 1. Voting was largely peaceful in the capital Chennai. Incidents of minor EVM glitches were reported in some places, causing brief delays. This election will be a litmus test for the BJP as it seeks to make inroads in the south and emerge as a credible alternative. In the state of Maharashtra, voters cast their ballots across 5 Lok Sabha seats. RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat, Nitin Gadkari, Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis were among the prominent faces who voted. Meanwhile, during a public rally in Uttar Pradesh's Amroha, Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised pacer Mohammad Shami and his efforts in the ICC World Cup 2024. Mohammad Shami is from Amroha. The government has given the Arjuna Award to the cricketer for his excellent performance in sports. Amroha heads to the polls in the second phase of polling on April 26. With 6 more phases left to go, it's a mammoth task for the Election Commission as it completes its exercise spanning over 40 days. The next day of voting is April 26, and the results are due on June 4.
Let's now shift focus to Pakistan, where violence by Islamist militants has become a routine affair, it seems. In the latest, 5 Japanese workers narrowly escaped a suicide bombing that targeted their vehicle in Karachi. Our next report telling you all about it.
Two days after Pakistani Army Chief vowed to permanently eliminate terrorism, terrorists targeted a van carrying 5 Japanese auto workers in Pakistan's port city of Karachi. The Japanese workers escaped unhurt, but the blast injured 3 bystanders. The auto workers were being driven to an industrial zone early in the morning when their bulletproof vehicle was targeted. According to the Pakistani police, the terrorist came close to the van, blowing himself up, while another fired at the vehicle. The 2 security guards escorting the Japanese workers returned fire and killed the bomber's accomplice. According to the police, the attackers had followed the Japanese group's vehicle for some time before launching the attack. The authorities suspect that they carried out a reconnaissance to identify the target and location of the attack. Now an investigation has been ordered to establish the identities of both assailants. This isn't new. Separatists seeking to overthrow the government and setting up their own strict brand of Islamic rule have launched some of Pakistan's bloodiest attacks in the last few years. Some separatist groups have also targeted foreigners, including Chinese workers working on various infrastructure projects in the country. No group immediately claimed responsibility for the rare attack on Japanese nationals. In the aftermath, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif condemned the attack, praising the timely police action for saving lives. He also prayed for the speedy recovery of those wounded. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi told a press conference that 1 Japanese national was confirmed to have been injured, adding that the government was checking details. Now the Japanese government has flagged the risk to other citizens currently residing in Pakistan. The violence on Friday came a day after terrorists ambushed and killed 6 customs officers in the turbulent Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. A team from the Directorate of Intelligence and Investigation Customs was conducting an intelligence-based operation in the terror-hit Dera Ismail Khan district when their vehicle came under attack. The shooting resulted in the deaths of customs officers who were working to counter militant networks smuggling weapons into the district. Last month, a suicide bomber rammed his explosive-packed car into a convoy of Chinese engineers and workers in the province's Kohistan district. That attack killed 5 Chinese nationals as well as their Pakistani driver. The foreigners were working on the Chinese-funded multi-billion-dollar Dasu Dam on the Indus River, which is Pakistan's biggest hydropower project. Islamabad attributes the rise in terror attacks to fugitive leaders and fighters of anti-Pakistan terror groups that have found refuge in Afghanistan. Recently, these groups have intensified their cross-border attacks since the Taliban regained control of Kabul. The Taliban, of course, deny Pakistan government's allegations, saying that they do not allow anyone to use Afghan soil as a launchpad of terror. Still, Pakistan has not been able to stop domestic terrorism. Years of patronizing terrorists has undermined its ability to tackle the security challenges posed by various groups. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
On that note, we're taking a very short break. Stay with us. You are watching Gravitas. We'll be right back.
the biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever. Decoding the multiple colors of this multi-dimensional, multi-layered spectacle. WION deciphers the images and the hues, sifts real performance from rhetoric and noise, claims and counterclaims, populist pitches and hidden truths. Untangling, unraveling this celebration of democracy.
Hundreds rallied in Niger capital Niamey for US departure and Russia support as Russian instructors arrived to train Niger forces in the use of new military hardware. Sudan still in turmoil 365 days later as the warring paramilitary and army continue to trade barbs and wreak havoc across the nation. And in Uganda, young wrestlers dream of one day emulating their heroes and joining wild wrestling entertainment. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. If you have been following the news, then you may know about the allegations against Nestle. Yes, Nestle, one of the largest and trusted consumer goods company in the world. For most of us, it's a household name. If you march into your kitchen or pantry right now, you might find a couple of products from the brand Maggi, Nescafe Coffee, Kit Kat. These are just some examples. But the row is not over them, it's about baby food. The Swiss NGO Public Eye and the International Baby Food Action Network have made some big allegations. According to their new investigation, they have found high levels of added sugar in two of the best-selling baby food brands by Nestle. And guess what? The violations allegedly have been found only in medium and low-income countries. I'm talking about those in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This has raised concern globally. People, especially parents who have been feeding their babies the products, are worried. And amid all this, the Indian government has decided to take prompt action. The Consumer Affairs Ministry of India has asked the Food Safety Regulator, FSSAI, to investigate the contents of Nestle's Cerelac baby cereal sold in India. It has emphasized that high sugar in baby products raises serious concerns about the health and safety of children in the country. The Secretary of Consumer Affairs, Nidhi Khare, said, and I'm quoting now, "The health and well-being of our citizens, especially infants and young children, is of paramount importance, and any deviation from safety standards could lead to serious health concerns." Meanwhile, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has also taken note of the report. It has issued a notice to the FSSAI. Let's go back to getting you the details of the findings. They have shown that in India, all 15 Cerelac baby products contain an average of nearly 3 grams of sugar per serving. The matter is said to be worse in Ethiopia and Thailand, with nearly 6 grams of sugar. Meanwhile, the report claims that the same products are being sold with no added sugar in Germany, France, and the UK. Of course, this is just one study and nothing has been verified yet. But still, even the thought of feeding your baby 3 to 6 grams of sugar every day is alarming, and that is just one serving. If there is any truth in the findings, multiply the figure by the number of times you give Cerelac to your child. In the year 2022, Nestle sold over 20,000 crore rupees worth of Cerelac products in India. That is over $2.3 billion. Just imagine how many parents bought Cerelac, how many babies ate it. For those who don't know, sugar is unnecessary and highly addictive for children. Experts say babies can get used to the sweet taste and start looking for more sugary foods. This starts a negative cycle that increases the risk of food disorders in adult life. You may already know what sugar does to your body. It creates a sudden spike in your blood sugar levels and then a sudden drop. And when that happens, you crave more sugar in turn. It's a vicious loop in a way, and you certainly would not want to develop that in your babies from such a young age. Not when diabetes is becoming increasingly common among children as well. Now, we are not saying that Nestle baby food causes all that, of course. We leave it to the food regulators to prove or disprove what the report has claimed. We are simply telling you about the risks associated with high sugar products. You have every right to make an informed choice. You have every right to feed your baby the best quality food. Does not matter if you live in a developed country or a developing one. As for Nestle India, it has said it never compromises on compliance. Also that it has reduced added sugar in baby food products in India by over 30% over the past 5 years. And maybe the probe in the country will shed more light on the matter now and get to the bottom of things. The cricketing community is mourning the loss of former England Test cricketer Raman Subbarao. He passed away at the age of 92 and was one of the last great amateurs to play tests. He leaves behind a rich legacy as an administrator who modernized the game with his reforms. Subbarao was the son of a London-based Indian lawyer, and he was the oldest living English cricketer at the time of his passing. The Southpaw played first-class cricket for Cambridge University and then joined the Surrey side that won 7 successive county championships in the 1950s. Subbarao earned the first of his 13 England caps in 1958. He retired at the age of 29 in 1961 when he seemed to be at his peak. His last assignment was the Ashes, where he scored centuries at Edgbaston and the Oval against Australia. He scored 300s and amassed 984 runs at a healthy average of 46.85 in his test career. Subbarao's involvement with cricket continued even after bidding farewell to his playing days. He assumed the role of England's manager on tours to India and Sri Lanka in 1981. He also served as the chairman of the Test and Country Cricket Board, which was the predecessor to the England and Wales Cricket Board. Subbarao later became an ICC match referee and oversaw 160 fixtures. But his biggest contribution to the sport came when he introduced perimeter advertising on cricket grounds. It was met with a lot of opposition, but later became a game changer. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good weekend.
dive into your daily dose of news.
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
On Wings this week, Songkran celebrations during the Thai New Year. Spring harvest festivals in India, from Punjab to Assam. The latest updates from Cambodia and cherry blossom season in Japan. Watch this week's Wings for those looking for the best experiences worldwide. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injuries have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
South Africa, for WION, World is One.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate